for more people to join, and then I'm gonna start talking. Hello Putri. Hi Daryl. Hello you guys. Hi. Okay, so I guess most of you guys know today I am going to talk about the Ranunculus. Basically the Wafer Paper Ranunculus that I've been doing. So recently I've been doing some pieces as commission pieces for my friend's wedding bouquet. So then I thought that why not I can take this chance to talk about how I usually work on my Wafer Paper Ranunculus. And then I can share with you guys some tips and tricks on like what I usually do when I make these flowers as well. So hello everyone. Hi Pamela. Wow, hello from California. Hi from Singapore. Costa Rica. Wow, you guys are from all over the place. Yeah, I'm like always very nervous when I do live, but I'm gonna try my best to calm down and show you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with I've prepared a slideshow on the main points that I'm gonna talk about. So let me just pull up the slideshow. Okay, I think here it is. Okay, so just a quick run through. This is basically one of the works from my student. It's from Pamela. So recently she did this Ranunculus from our online course and she shared it with me, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm gonna show you right here and also talk about the points that I would like to focus on when I do my Ranunculus. So you guys can go ahead and take a screenshot of this page in case I just like get off this page later on. So you can kind of see from the title that I wrote key features Wafer Paper Ranunculus. So for those who are unfamiliar with wafer paper, they are basically sheets of edible paper made out of starch, vegetable oil and water, and then they're just dehydrated into pieces like that. So then what we do is we then use these pieces of paper to cut them into different petal shapes, and then we'll do flowers like that. So I'm not going to go into the details of how I do these flowers because that's going to take very long, but I'm going to highlight the main points of a wafer paper ranunculus so that when you're making on your own at home or in your studio, you can take note of these key features. Okay, let me just put it aside. Okay, so just a quick run through of today. I'm going to talk about the key features, and then towards the end I'm going to show you guys how I do the wafer paper Calyx, which is this little star shaped thing at the bottom. This I'm going to do a live demo. So if you guys join me towards the end, I don't think this is going to take very long, maybe about 30 minutes live. And then towards the end I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to show you guys how I do the Calyx over here and how I mix the colors for my wafer paper and how I just basically color them or like introduce colors into them. So yep. And then towards the very end, I will also be showing you guys some of my students' works, which I think they do deserve like a spotlight because it's really very beautiful, and I would love to share with everybody. So okay, so the key features of a wafer paper ranunculus, right? So number one is the layers. So what I like about a wafer paper or like even just ranunculus in general is that it is extremely layered. This is one I think is the main feature of a ranunculus. So just like peonies, ranunculus, these two flowers are actually some of my top favorites because of its really luxuriously layered petals. So you can see from the photo that we have over here as well, and also on this ranunculus that I have. So when I talk about layers, what I mean is all these little petals, they are just kind of like layering behind one another, and they're really so close together. And with that, it actually forms a very nice shape of the ranunculus. So I often tell my students, when you guys are working on a ranunculus, if your ranunculus is not layered enough, it will not scream a ranunculus. So imagine a ranunculus. I mean, like, it really depends on what kind of like species you're talking about, but I would think like 90% of them are pretty layered like that. So when you're working on it, you can see that it's very layered from every angle, from the top angle all the way to the side angle. You can see all the layers just forming the entire shape of the flower. Okay, so that's the number one thing that I like to talk about. So it's gonna bring me to my second point, which is the shape and the contour basically of the flower. So I'm going to dwell into a little bit more details on this point itself. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I will probably just also take a look at the comments, and then I'll answer accordingly as I have the time to do so in this video. Okay. So for point number 2, which is the shape, which is one of the also the very main key features of this flower, is that let's just take a look from the start, from the top. I mean, so you can see from the top, right? The flower, the picture that I have over here is at an angle, so you can compare these two angles. So from the top wise, it's actually really round. Okay, so that's one thing that we want to take note of. And then as I just change over to an angle, like maybe by the side angle, you can see how it actually forms almost like a semicircle shape. And then you can see this little petal dropping towards the end. So whenever I do flowers, I always like to study the lifetime of a flower. So think of it as a bud, and then it slowly blooms, and then it just drops. So these are some of the things that you want to take note of. So let me just zoom into details on what I mean by that. So if you take a look at this ranunculus I have over here, or even just the photo that you see in front, can you see like the center of the bud itself is always the deepest of the flower? So that's where the bud is, like the little bud is. And then before it starts to bloom, so when it blooms, the height increases. So when you're attaching new layers of a ranunculus, you want to make sure that if every new layer that you attach, you go higher and higher. So that's what you can see from the photos as well. So you can see over here, this is the deepest center. And then as I add on more layers, the layers just keep increasing, and they just keep going higher and higher here. So what happens when it reaches the highest point? So it's almost like the peak point of a flower, like it's most blossom and the most beautiful. So bud, and then slowly increase, and then to the highest point. And then what you do when you reach the highest point is that it starts to open up, and that forms almost like the shape of the flower over here, right? And then once it reaches here, now you want to try to take a look at the side. So you don't have to expand the shape anymore, because the flowers doesn't go this way, right? It doesn't keep blossoming and opening up and getting bigger and bigger. So what happens when it reaches its peak point, turn to the side, and see that the flowers will then start to drop. So that's one thing that I always take note of. So the side angle is very important. You can see the flowers, the petals go from say 12 o'clock to do I have a better representation here? Yeah, here. So then it will go to like a 1 o'clock position, and then it slowly goes to a 2 o'clock position, 3 o'clock, and then it just go down to a 4 o'clock. So this is what I always talk about in class, is like the way the flower blooms is almost like a clockwise direction. I mean, or anti-clockwise, doesn't matter, but it just has to go from 12 o'clock all the way to like 6 o'clock. So these are the things that you need to take note. Because like a lot of times when I see people, when they do flowers, they always focus on the top, because they think like maybe the cake might be a flat surface. So they thought like maybe the flowers can only go into the cake like this way. And then all they see is this angle, which sometimes gets really repetitive if you have too many flowers going on the cake. So what you like to introduce to the cake is also some of the side angles. So imagine if this is the cake surface, and then you just kind of like put it in at the side like that. You can see like the angle here is really beautiful too. So those are some of the things that I would like to share when I do my flowers as well. So next thing, after making sure that you hit every angle, did I miss anything? No, okay. So after you make sure that you hit every angle, right, towards the end over here, the reason why it's drooping is because think of a life, like just basically a lifespan. So it just goes from like a baby to an adult, and then it's kind of like aging, right? So towards the end, it's almost like at the end of its life. So it's gonna drop down lower over here, and this is what I do. So usually when we make a ranunculus, we go from like the smallest petals, and we slowly increase to a medium sized petal, and then to a large size. And then towards the end, when it's aging, I like to think of it as withering. So when it's withering, you will kind of like decrease the size of petals again. So these are just some of the little details that I like to take note of, like in when I'm doing flowers. So this is just one example. I have another one that's almost like a honeysuckle color over here. So these two guys have the calyx right at the bottom here. And then I have one that is almost like a, this has multi-tones inside. I'm going to talk about colors in just a bit, but I just wanted to show you guys the different colors. So these are also just the mood board colors of my friend's wedding bouquet. So she's gonna mix this wafer paper ranunculus into her wedding bouquet because she wanted something that she can preserve for her wedding, and she thought this will be the perfect pieces that she can go for. So this guy doesn't have a calyx at the bottom, which I'm going to demonstrate on this guy over here. Okay, so these are just the flowers. So you can see from this guy too, from the side, see every single angle is present, so as it opens up, so it's not just flat. So from the top it may look circular, but from the side, see, this is what makes it really beautiful and attractive. Okay. Also, one thing I like to talk about when we're adding, just heading back to point number one, when you're adding layers to a flower, the one thing I like about making either peonies or ranunculus is that there is no like one standard way of making it. As long as you follow a general rule of thumb of layering them, it really doesn't matter what position you place them in, they won't ever in a sense go wrong, because they're so forgiving like that. So for example, if you take a look at some of the petals, let me see, I have over I have one. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys another one, but for now you can see the layering. Let's see over here. Okay, okay, take a look at this. So you can see these two layers, they're really close to each other, but these two layers, they're actually really far apart from each other. And let's just say these guys are really close, these guys are really close as well, but this is very far apart, and then these are really far apart too. So those are the little things that I like to take note of. Like flower wise, they are never in a sense like perfectly perfect. So every flower is different. So even though I like a certain flower and I really love the way it looks like, there's just no way I can replicate it, and that's just because we really have to just embrace what it is. So you can see these little details actually make them look really natural. Let me show you guys another one. So this is my ranunculus. Let me just show you guys. So these are really close, and then these guys are really far apart. Oh, and one very important thing I almost forgot. The thing that makes ranunculus, or this type of ranunculus, a ranunculus, is the very cupped petal. So can you see in the middle, all the petals are really cupped. It's almost like a little scoop, like a spoon. And then as it opens up, the petal starts to become flatter, like it opens. So from a very cupped look, it opens up. Let me see, can I see? Okay, yeah, wait 1 second. Let me switch to the bigger screen. I'll answer the questions later. Let me see if I can take it away. Okay, I'm back. Really huge now. Okay, oh yeah, this is better. I can see myself better too. Okay, so let me just repeat the things that I've said just now. So these are the petal layers that are really close to each other, and then these are the layers that are very far apart from each other. So all these are in the little details that actually makes it look very natural on top of the layering process I was talking about. Then I was moving on to the cup look of the flower. So if you can see from the middle part, the ranunculus is really cupped, the petals, and then as you slowly bloom, so think about a flower blooming like a bud blooming, it goes from this to this to this. It starts to slowly open up, and then it reaches a straight line, and then it starts to go backwards, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So same goes for the petals of the ranunculus too. That's actually one of the main key features of ranunculus, just how cupped the petals are. So from here you can see the middle parts are really cupped, and then towards the end when it's really bloomed, I open them up. For me personally, I actually do like the sudden transition from a very cupped petal to an open petal, because I feel like in a ranunculus itself, it's really nice to have a really circular center. It differs from one person to another. Everybody likes a different look of a ranunculus, but basically that's what I like, and then it opens up. So if you can take a look at this one, it is the same thing as well. You can see this really nice circular thing in the middle, and then immediately after that I just went on to open it up. And that's just how I like it. Same goes for this. Okay, so these are all the different layerings. Okay, and then before I jump into the colors, let me just show you one more. Oops, so many flowers in front of me. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I have this bouquet that I've done a few months ago, but I just want to bring your attention to this little ranunculus over here. Maybe it's also perfect for the point on colors, because like in this ranunculus itself, let's talk about the layers first. You can see this layer over here, this part, I went on with a richer pink tone. So it really draws the attention towards here. But all around it looks really cohesive as well. So just wanted to show you guys, because the color is really very, the sunlight is, yeah. So can you see when it's really strong here, I created the layers really close to each other, and then this layer is like really far apart. And then from the side angle you can see as well, see layers over here. Yeah, so for this one, I think it's just like a really pale pink. If I'm not wrong, it should be I think I used like a flamingo pink from Sugar Flare, and I think I just added a very slight tone of yellow just to make it look more natural, I think towards the middle part. I'm gonna dive into details on that one, on the third point, which is the coloring part. Okay, and then yeah, so these are just some of the other colors that I've done also. They come in a lot of beautiful colors, so you can actually really explore around. Okay, let's see. Okay, so colors wise, let me just bring you guys to this. Okay, so just now for the previous two, it's kind of like predominantly pink, and then the other one is predominantly like a pale yellow tone. So for what I did over here is that I actually introduced two sets of colors. So for the first set of colors, or rather three, the first set is actually the green inside, because it's the bud, right? So every flower bud kind of starts with like a green tone inside, and then slowly from the green I introduce some yellow tone into it. So I like to think of like the green growing, like evolving, so the colors has to evolve as well. But I do not want it to go from green to immediately pink, because that might not look natural. So I always like to play with transitional colors. So if you have the screenshot from just now, I'm at point 3. I'm talking about the colors of the ranunculus and how you can make it more natural. So you definitely can see a lot more tones in this one as compared to this one, which is purely just yellow. This is almost like a flamingo-ish tone with some yellow tones in it. The sun is a little bit bright. Yeah, I think you can see this better. Okay, so green to some like pale yellow color. And then as I transition into bigger petals, I started introducing a flamingo tone to it, which I achieved using, if I'm not wrong, like a flamingo pink tone plus some yellow tones. So if you're unsure with mixing colors, right, just go online and download like a color wheel. These for you to achieve these colors, you don't need crazy knowledge on color theory. You just need to look at the color wheel and then understand what are primary colors and understand what are secondary colors. Oh, the sun helps to show the color. Oh, great. I was worried that it's a bit too bright. Yeah, so basically if you want to achieve something like an orange tone, it's just basically a mixture of reddish tone and yellowish tone. You'll get like an orangey tone. So it's very, very basic. You don't even need the color with the theory knowledge to achieve that. So on top of that, transitioning to pink, what I did later on was I brought in some more yellow tones back into the flower, and then I continued to a pink tone. So you can see you can play around the transition of colors and it will still look very natural as long as they belong to a particular family within the color wheel itself. So if you look at the entire color wheel, it will just, these colors will probably just form like a maybe 1/8 of a part of this part of the color wheel, and then you can see the colors are really cohesive. Yeah, so something like that. let me see. Let me just scroll through because I realized I haven't been seeing the questions. Let me just take a look at the questions. Okay. How many petals do you use for these flowers? Hey, good question. I don't think I've ever counted them. But I think roughly 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60? I think around 60. Yeah, I think I have around 60 petals in there. I don't like to, in a sense, like put a formative number there, but around 60. Do you use a synthetic ball to give them the shape? Also, basically what I started with is do you mind helping me take the, is there in the shelf? Yeah, I think close to the, sorry, I'm just gonna get so you guys can see the styrofoam ball on the other side of the shelf where all the flower buds are. Okay, while Ash takes that, I'm gonna, what are these made of? So these are made of wafer paper, which is the main medium that we're using for our flowers in today's class. So these are the wafer paper. Oh, awesome. I think it's the top one. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, back to the question. So the center of my flower is basically just this guy. So this is just a styrofoam ball. I've attached a wire into them and then I just hot glue gun them. If you do not want your hot glue gun to touch the cake, what I did next is I just grab like a piece of floral tape, cut it, and then what I do is just use the floral tape, pull it, and then wrap it up. And then just keep wrapping it at a 45-degree angle. Yep. And then there you go. So then your hot glue gun will not touch the cake. So this is how I usually do my buds. When during low season, we always prepare a lot of these guys, and then after we just keep using them as we want them to. So you can see the difference. If you guys want to take a quick photo, you can see the bud and the flower. Yeah, we can see the colors here. Okay, next. Do you cut each petal by hand? Yes, but I don't cut them all the time. Sometimes I have helpers to help me cut them, like Ash behind this screen here. Yeah, so we cut them by hand. Yes, correct. Unless you have a puncher you want to recommend, we'll happily do that. Like for some flowers, if the petals are round, you can actually get the round punches that you punch paper with, and then you can just punch them out. Oh, I don't have the round one, but I have an example. The punches probably look like that. So this one gives you this shape, which is perfect if you want to do mini flowers of this. You don't have to like cut them, you can just like press on them and then you punch it. I'm sure Amazon all these have it. I got it on like from a local craft store, but you can get it from like Amazon, I'm sure. Next, how many petals? I got that. Hello. How do you make the petals soft and pliable without getting... Oh, okay, I'm going to go into that when I demonstrate on how I do the calyx of the flower later on. What brands of colors do you use? I use Sugar Flare for my wafer paper. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I use Sugar Flare because I'll talk about it later as well when I'm doing the calyx, so that it makes sense when I demonstrate them all together. What's easier to work with, wafer paper or Gumpaste? I actually do like both. I do like Gumpaste and I do like wafer paper also. It really depends on what look we are going for. For example, let me just show you guys a bunch of daisies that I did recently. So these guys, these are the middle part is actually made of Gumpaste, and then the flowers are actually made of wafer paper. And I love it because it's so light and I can just hit them against each other and then nothing will break. So that's the thing I like about wafer paper. Imagine all these petals were gum paste. I will just hit them and then everything will just break apart, like into pieces. So this is perfect because I can just hit them, can you see? And then they are very lightweighted. So the leaves are also made from wafer paper, so that's perfect. Everything is like light and nice. Okay, do you mix color with vodka? Yeah, I'll go into that later as well. What is the size of your styrofoam bud? Good question. I think it's an inch. It looks like an inch, right? I think it's an inch, which is around 25 mm. 25.4. I think anywhere between 25 mm to 24 mm is good. Are all the petals of the same size? Do you use some molds to nerves? What's some molds to nerves? Petals are not of the same size for sure, because like as they grow, the sizes have to increase and then decrease again, which was what I was talking about just now. How do you store them? Oh, very good question. So a lot of people ask me this, so I've decided to do a YouTube video. So you guys can check out the YouTube video. Just head to YouTube and type Winifred Christie Cake, and then you'll see our channel. And then there's this video called How to Store Sugar Flowers. It also applies to wafer paper flower. So in there, I actually talk about how to store your flowers in depth. So I will leave that for that. You can check it out yourself. And okay, let's move on. Vein. Oh, okay. Yes, I do use veiners to vein, so that give them like a more natural look. Okay. What time? 11. Okay, we are 30 minutes have just flown by like that. Okay, so these are just the colors they're talking about. I'll talk more about colors later when I'm sharing some of my students' work. Right now, I'm gonna show you guys how I do the calyx of my Ranunculus. So whoever has questions on like how to apply, what kind of colors do I use, how do I apply colors onto my wafer paper, and how do I work with them, this is the time. So I'm going to switch the camera around so it's like a top-down angle, so you won't see my face, you will just see how I do things. So just give me 1 second. Let me put this back. Okay, I can just turn it. Okay. So I have this little thing over here, which is great. It's gonna help me put my phone over here. Okay, I'm just gonna... Okay, this is my current workstation. Whoops, oh my god. Oops, okay, got it. This stand is really great. It's from Acorn Mouse, I think. Okay, so here are some of my colors. You can see I have some of my colors on my little palette wheel over here already, because I was working on some of the calyx. Okay, but I'm gonna just mix new colors so y'all can see how I do things. I'm gonna swatch my colors over here also, so you guys can see. 1 second, please. Okay, so for brushes wise, let me just run you guys through the tools that we need. So we need like a color palette over here, just like a cake decorating foam board, a kitchen towel or anything that helps you swatch your colors, colors that you need. This guy itself is actually the wafer paper glue, which is the edible glue that we use to stick the petals on the bud, or like we stick like calyx to the flower. Yeah, so this is basically just wafer paper and water. There's no particular ratio that I use. I just basically mix all the scrap pieces of wafer paper. For example, all these is the scrap pieces that we have after cutting the petals, and then we just throw them into this little bottle, and then we add some water, and then we microwave them in like a 10 seconds interval. So once it reaches this like gooey state, just gonna show you guys. Can you see the gooey state? This has been sitting for like maybe 15 minutes, so it's a lot stickier, but once it's done, it's also pretty sticky. So as long as it reaches this gooey state, you are good to go, and then it will stick. Okay, next up you will need a brush, and then you will need a little additional brush for your wafer paper glue, and then you will need a Dresden tool. So this is a tool that I use to create patterns on our petals or on our calyx. We also have a YouTube video on that, so y'all can check it out if you want. So these are the main things that we need: pair of scissors, and also maybe just some scrap pieces of wafer paper over here. Okay, so I guess that's... oh yeah, we need, very important, we need vodka as well. So vodka is the liquid that we're using to mix our colors. Yep, correct. A lot of people ask if they can just use water and not alcohol because maybe they cannot consume. But for now, I don't really have a solution to it yet. I only use vodka because it allows our petals to be like dampen really quickly, and it allows it to dry really quickly as well. So those are the characteristics that we need our petals to be in order to form what we want to do. So that is basically, yeah, the gist of it. Okay, so quick talk about the colors. The reason why I use sugar flare, or I have a Wilton juniper green over here, is because of this ingredient called the glycerin. So glycerin is almost like a, can I find? Oh, it's not here. Let me try to find. Glycerin is almost like an oil-based ingredient here. So it actually allows us to keep the petals really like moistened and nice to work with. Soft and pliable too. So that's, if that's what you're wondering. This is almost done. Probably will not need the dark brown, but just keep at hand. So in order to mix the colors I want, I seldom only use colors from one bottle. I like to use I like to use different colors just to mix and match. So can you see over here previously I had 3 tones of green as well, because I think it makes it look a lot more natural. So coloring part, this is really fun. So I'm just going to grab some of the green that I have, put it into here, and I'm going to use vodka to just dilute it. So depending on how much liquid or like vodka you put into your gel colors, it's going to determine how dark or light the hue is. It's completely up to you if you prefer something that, so let's just swatch this and see what it is. So you can see it's like a really, really dark tone of green. Probably not something I will be going for, but then this is just, it's always a process finding colors. You will never reach the perfect color with just one try. So if you do not like this color, you can just further dilute it. So just put some vodka in another well, take some of this green, and then you can just lighten them up this way. A very little goes a long way, so you don't have to use a lot. Can you see the immediate difference between the 2 greens? Okay, but today I'm going to look for a warmer tone of green. So I want to introduce this cream tone from Sugar Flare because it gives it like a nice milky, creamy shade to it. So I'm just going to take some of, please use a different brush. I'm just demoing, so I'm using the same brush. But if you do not want your green to be inside this bottle, this is finishing up, so I don't really care. So I'm going to put my yellow here. And then in order to mix like a new green, I'm going to let the green and the yellow stay in its own well. And then to mix them up, I'm going to use up a new well. So the yellow that I have here, I'm probably just going to dilute it further. And because I've already have some green in my brush, so you can see it has naturally turned into like a very pale kiwi green tone. Just grab a little bit more from here. And then grab a little bit more yellow. Okay, and then let's just test it out. Yep, as you can see, this is like a more yellowish tone of green over here. But this is a little bit too light for my liking. I'm looking at a really milky green, creamy green. So I'm gonna just really grab a lot of this cream tone and then add it into here. Oh, can you see it change? This is always my favorite part. You can really just have so much fun mixing colors. And you can see with just 2 colors, I've achieved so many different shades of green already. Can you see? This is almost like a darker shade. Okay, this looks close to where I want it to be. This looks really close. So I'm gonna probably work with this. At any point of time, if I want to introduce like a new green, I can always tap into this green or I can tap into this green. So I have different greens on hand that I can play around with. You can see how I just combine these 2 greens together. Okay, so in order to make our Calyx, which is this little star-shaped thing over here at the bottom, if you're confident enough, you can freehand cut out. But if you're not confident enough, you can just grab a pencil. Use a just like an extra piece of wafer paper that you have. And then there's no template to this, so I'm usually just cutting it out. So in order to measure the length of the calyx that we want, okay, let me just show you this guy. So for this calyx itself, I went really long, almost shooting out of the flower itself. And the reason why I do that is because I want to, when I see the flower from the side, I want to see this little calyx popping out like that. Okay, but if you do not want this little calyx to be popping out, you can go a little bit shorter, so you don't have to stretch it out this long. Okay, so let's just go somewhere in between. So if I'm just gonna eyeball it, so probably this around this length, and then I'm just gonna put it here, so right here. Okay, so this calyx always comes in like a starfish shape, so I'm just gonna roughly draw something like that. Okay, don't worry about the pencil mark because you can always trim them off. And we will need around 5 pieces of this. So a quick way that you can work on is just to fold these pieces of paper into 5 folds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. Actually, if you have space, you can also draw another one here, but I'm gonna skip it for now. Okay, so you can trim away the pencil lines. And then using this, and trim it further. Okay, so there we go. Don't worry if it's not the final look of what you want also. You can see these little guys. You can always trim them again. That's what I like about wafer paper. You can always go ahead and trim according to what you want. One little detail I like to add to my calyx is just to give it a little extra, like a little leg, hairline leg. I don't know how you call it. But this little detail over here. See that? Okay, and then I'm gonna choose like a little spider leg, I think. Okay, so maybe just 2 out of 3. So if you don't like anything, you can always just trim accordingly. Okay, then now I'm gonna color them. So if you do not want to, no, I think I'll just use the board. We can clean them off later. So with the green that we have, which is the one over here, I'm just going to tap away the excess, and always test it out on your paper or tap away the excess on your paper before you brush the colors on it. So when you're brushing the colors on, right, always start with lesser liquid and then add on if you need more, because if you accidentally put too much liquid into it, it's going to become really drenched, and then it's going to just like shrivel and shrink into something that is unusable. So always start a little bit at a time. So tap away the excess. And then hold on one side and just kind of like brush it. Oh, very nice bright green. Turn it around. Brush on both sides. Flip it around. So you can see when I'm brushing, I'm actually introducing a very light feathery stroke because I want the colors to go on it very naturally and not like push all the flower in. Push all the colors into the petal. I want them to really just go onto the surface. And then you can see now it's relatively flat, right? It doesn't look good and it's this flat, so this is where our foam board comes in. Put a little calyx on the foam board. And then I've just kind of like coated my Dresden tool with a little bit of shortening. So it's like a little bit of oil-based thing. So that it glides easier on the calyx. So then I'm just gonna, because I want it to curl, so I'm just gonna put in strength. Oops. Okay, so you can see sometimes it gets stuck like that. So this is why we need some shortening. And then you can see it will glide so much easier. You can see that? So that's our number 1. So this technique is also very, very applicable to like random little leaves that you're working on, or even other petals that you want them to curl in this way. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the rest. So what happens if you accidentally put in too much liquid? What you can do is just let it dry there for a while before working on it again, because the liquid is alcohol, right? So if you didn't put in way too much, it will still dry and you can still work with it. It will probably shrink a little bit, but you still can work with it. You see, because I have so many tones I have some yellow tones inside, and sometimes they just separate. So like I have some shades of yellow and some shades of green in there, which is very, very nice. And then curl it, leave it. So just bring down the strokes. Okay, last two. So remember, we have this little detail over here. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys how we can work this. Okay, I'm gonna flip it around. Okay. So for this one, I'm still gonna do the same thing. Just pulling it in. And then with this small little detail, if it's too small for you to, flip it on the board and then curl it, you can always just use your fingers. And then, can you see this little guy bending towards this way? Yeah. So these are just some of the little details I like to add into my flower. It's very little detail, but it changes up the entire thing. Okay, last one. Okay. So just hold your Dresden tool in like a 45-degree angle and just pull it down. You can pull it down this way, or you can pull and twist. Pull and twist. So it gives a different look to your ranunculus as well. Oh, I mean the calyx. Great. So you can see after a while, this calyx has kind of like dried a little bit, and this is where we're gonna attach them onto the bottom part of our ranunculus. Okay, so to attach them, we'll be using our edible glue, which is the wafer paper and water. Let me just set this aside. So you just have to dip it into this gooey state of glue. If you're unsure, you can always just grab the calyx and just set it into position before you start applying the glue like underneath. So this is what I'm gonna do. Just first one over here, and you can just it will just take a few seconds and then it's stuck already. It will not drop out. Okay, and then the second one. Oops. So if you're sure where you want to put it already, you can just put the glue. Just a tiny bit will do. It doesn't have to be a lot. Remember, the glue is also considered liquid. So if you have too much of it, it will also start to make the wafer paper shrink. Just 1, 2. And then 3. And then 4 and 5. 4. This one looks a little bit flat, so I'm just gonna give it a bit of a twist before I add it in here. Oh, great. Okay, so that's it. So if you want to further adjust, you can always bring it down. Before it has completely hardened, you can always just bend it in however ways you want it. You can also add on more if you prefer it to stick onto a certain petal rather than like dropping it down. So So here I'll probably just add in a little bit more, just use your fingers to press it. Okay, and then the very last part to finishing up this ranunculus is, can you see this stem over here is white? So remember just now I was just adding floral tape, a white floral tape to this stem over here. So right now it's white, which is really weird because all these are green, right? So what you can do is, with the remaining color that you have, you can always take this and then you start to paint it. And then now everything kind of comes together. So this will definitely take some time to dry on the floral tape. So just once you're done, just let it sit in the styrofoam for like a few hours. It will completely dry by then. So I'm just gonna paint until here because my floral tape ends here. I haven't really went on to do the entire stem because my friend's gonna use this for a wedding bouquet, right? So what I'm gonna do after the live is I'm just gonna add additional stem. The same steps as well, floral tape, and I'm just gonna color them. So that is basically how I will do my ranunculus. Just look at a closer look here. You can see it's really seamless from the calyx all the way onto here. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So before I end, I'm just gonna do a quick recap, very quick one, and also show some of my students' works. So let me show you guys the slideshow. In case those who just joined, you have missed the very first slideshow that I've shown. It is this one over here. So just now in this live, I've spoken about the main key features that I talk about when I'm working with a ranunculus. So the first one will be the layers, which are all the different layers that you see in a ranunculus. It is what makes a ranunculus a ranunculus. Secondly, it will be the shape and the overall just contour of the entire flower. How we started off with a very deep center, and then how we open it up, blossom, let it go reach its peak, and then how it kind of withers from there. So that's how we form the different layers forming down here. And then lastly, we spoke about colors. So in this ranunculus itself, we actually went from a green to like a pale yellow tone, and then to a flamingo pink tone, and then in between we sneak in some of the yellows in there as well, and actually they come together really nicely as long as you make sure the colors are cohesive. If you see this one, it's mainly just pink. Oh, I didn't show. Oh, here. So if you see, this one is mainly pink, but there are also different shades of pink in there. So actually that is what makes it look very natural too. And then lastly, what we did was to do this calyx, which I just did a demonstration, and then I went on to paint this entire thing. So see, sometimes the way for the floral tip comes out, just have to tighten them and then continue. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this dry. Let's see. Yeah, I'll probably save this as a IGTV, so like you guys can watch it later as well. Do you paint the petals? Is that petals? Does it mean petals or dust? So there's also additional way you can add colors into this if you do not want the the gel colors. If you do not like the colors that you have, you can also grab dust colors and then just add on dust colors around it to bring out certain accents if you want it, but I'm happy with this color, so I probably don't need that. Okay. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. I want to show you guys some of my students' work. If I can see. Okay, so this belongs to Trisia. I think that's how you pronounce it. So you can see I love this cake so much, because I mean, like, just look at how all the colors gel together, and you can see how the ranunculus on top just kind of like pops because of how luxuriously layered it is. So that's what I'm talking about. So you can see from Trisia's ranunculus, she's not showing the top part of the ranunculus, she's showing the sides. So that's what I meant by, like, working on the side is very important too, because you never know which part of it is facing your audience. And then she has some wafer paper leaves going at the back, and I love how it gels together so well with the body of the cake itself. Like, the colors used are just perfect, and then they come together so beautifully. Yeah. Next, These are some Ranunculus and also Anthuriums, and I think we have some Lunarias going inside by Brienne. So she's also one of our students. You can see the colors that she's chosen for her Ranunculus is this very bright flamingo orange, which is really, really beautiful. I think perfect for spring or summer. Very, very vibrant and very nice. She also mentioned like wafer paper are super light to work with, which yes, one thing I love about wafer paper as compared to Gumpaste. And yeah, so those are the colors. I have another bright red necklace to show you guys too. Yeah, so this is by one of another students. Very nice use of vibrant colors, and you can see the layers in this one itself. The petals are not necessarily in a sense like the neatest, but it has its own style and it's very, very beautiful, I think. Okay. And then I have this question. How do you place the wafer paper? One second. How do you place the wafer paper over a buttercream cake without melting the flour? Okay, so one thing you have to take note, right, when you're placing wafer paper or gum paste flowers on buttercream cakes, understand the theory behind it. So what makes the flour melt is when liquid is introduced into the petals. So liquid introduced to the wafer paper or liquid introduced into the gum paste. So what happens when you place it on the buttercream cake and it melts the flour? It means that your buttercream is melting and hence is introducing, I don't know, condensation or additional liquid into your flour. So that's one thing to note. So if you want to make sure that your flour stays really, really safe on your buttercream cake, make sure to minimize the chances of condensation. So that might mean also keeping a very consistent temperature for your cake, be it like, in the fridge, and then once you take it out, the temperature remains as consistent as you can. So you minimize the chances of it condensating. So what we do with our wedding cakes is always make sure that it goes from a refrigerated place into a refrigerated place, and make sure that the temperature stays as consistent as you can. So that is one way that you can, because like a little bit of condensation will not melt the entire flour, but it will cause some petals to be soft, but then it will not go to a crazy extent of destroying the entire flour. So that's one thing you want to take note of. Yep, that's it. Yep, and I think I've came to the end of my demonstration. If you guys have any questions, you guys can ask again. If not, I'm gonna stay a while and look through all the questions that you guys have. What brand of wafer paper do you use? I don't have a particular brand, but if you're searching for something on Amazon, you can look for Oasis Supply. I think that's a brand that everybody's looking for. I mean, a lot of people I know are working with. What is the thickness of the wafer paper you usually use? Oh yeah, okay, very good question. So there are a few different thicknesses of wafer paper out there in the market. They are differentiated by their names. So if I'm not wrong, there is a O grade and there is a AD grade, and then there's a DD grade, if I'm not sure. If I'm correct. Yeah, let me check it out. I'll just post it somewhere. So the one that I'm using is an AD grade. It's somewhere between 0.27 to 0.35 mm. That's the thickness I like to work with, because I think I get a lot more control with that. I have some students or friends who prefer using the O grade. So O grade is the thinnest setting of the wafer paper. It's almost like only 0.22 mm. Yeah, correct. Some people really love the really, really thin look of it, but I personally prefer something thicker, so it's a lot easier to work with. Oh yeah, I can show you guys some of the roses that I just did since we are here. Yay, so this is one of the rows that I've just done. Let me bring it back. The screen. Yep. So like this one is also made out of an AD grade, which is a 0.27 to 0.35 mm. If you are searching on Amazon, just go ahead and look out for that. So this is one of the roses I've done. See, what I like about roses with wafer paper is that you can also just open them. I mean, like, you can just really like push the petals together. They won't break. And then, so just a quick talk. You can see how from the top angle, I kind of like formed the shape of the rose. And then one thing to note is the sides. So remember, that's why I talk about the ranunculus as well. So the top has to look presentable, the side has to as well. So you can see how the sides, it starts to slowly drop downwards. So if you have stayed with me throughout, I was talking about how it went from a 12 o'clock to like a 2 o'clock to like a 3 o'clock to like a 4 o'clock. So those are the little things you want to take note of. So be it like a rose, be it like a ranunculus or whatnot, all these are little things that you need to take note of. Can you see that? And also just now, whatever I did for the Ranunculus Calyx, can you see I've done the same thing for my rose. So it's a very, very universal technique that you can apply throughout many different flowers. You can apply it to dahlia, you can apply it to your garden Juliet roses, you can apply it to peonies as well. The shades might differ a little bit, but the techniques are pretty much the same. Okay, let's see if any other questions. Okay, I'm just gonna go through the last few questions that you guys have, and then I'm just gonna wrap it up because I think, I'm left with 1 minute, I think. Oh no, I'm gonna quickly wrap it up. Okay, is it better to arrange the wafer paper right before delivery? Yes, correct, right before delivery, just to be safe. What color do you use for the rose? Also a very, if I'm not wrong, yeah, a flamingo shade. Also some of this cream tone just to make it more warm, and then I added a little bit of green just to mute it. Yeah, so if you understand the concept of complementary colors, you will understand how to put these together. Okay, our live session still 1 hour. Okay, I'm still on it though, so I guess I still have some time. Yeah, we're gonna faster wrap it up already. How much does your classes cost? It depends on whether you're talking about physical classes or online classes. If you check out the link in our profile, we have just relaunched our online school class last night. Yeah, correct. So you go ahead and take a look at the classes, and if there's anything that attracts you or you think if those are good fit for you, you can go ahead and purchase them. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me through DM before you make the purchase. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm just gonna wrap it up. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to just drop me a DM. I'll answer them. And I think sometime next week I'll be doing a color mixing video because a lot of people have been requesting for it. So I'm gonna probably do one of those. I think next week, maybe sometime this time as well. So so take care everyone. Stay safe. And I'll see you guys next week, I guess. Bye. See you guys. Yes, I'll save this live. Okay, I think IG is kicking me out. Bye guys, thanks for staying throughout. Bye bye. Love you guys. Stay safe. Bye.